Just to make it 28-3. Arthur Blank loving it. Up by 25. Toss to White. He's in. What a comeback.
All right, welcome to another episode of the 28-3 podcast. Today, the hiring of Kellen Moore is finally official.
Yeah.
As of a week ago, I guess.
Right.
But we also pulled on a new defensive coordinator, Brandon Staley, and a few other members of the staff. So I think today's episode, we can go ahead and talk about that. Talk about our probable move to a 3-4 defense, and then talk about players on the current roster who fit that scheme, and players at the Combine, which is happening later this week, who might fit the scheme as well. So.
Yep.
Any thoughts on the initial thoughts on Brandon Staley?
Yeah, Brandon Staley. Look, I like the hire. I mean, he got a lot of flack for what he did or how he was when he was in Los Angeles as the head coach. But, you look back to the last time, before he was a head coach, his last stint as a defensive coordinator was with the Rams, and they had the number one overall defense in the league. And he comes from he's a, I don't want to say disciple, I think it's an overused term, but Vic Fangio was somebody he worked under. And, listening to a lot of Saints media after the hire, I think Ross Jackson talked about it. It was mentioned on WWL, et cetera. But, there's really not that many of defensive coordinators, maybe assistants, but not that many coordinators who can say that they spent any kind of significant time under Fangio. And we saw what the Fangio defense did for the Eagles. Now, obviously, the Eagles had players. We do not. But at least, the only thing we can ask for with any of these guys right now, and with Kellen Moore and what he's trying to do, is just a step in the right direction. And so I think that's what this is. And, it'll be interesting to see the switch from, if they do roll with the 3-4, I mean, all signs point to them doing that. Any kind of a major switch like that is certainly not going to be easy, but there could be definitely some benefits to it. Kellen Moore's presser, when he was asked what do you look for in a defensive coordinator before he had hired Staley, he's like, the type of guy I want to bring in is a guy that would stress me out as an offensive coordinator. And so I would hope at a minimum that whatever Staley brings is a scheme, personnel groupings that'll at least put stress on the opposing team's offensive coordinator to maybe, if nothing else, kind of hide any talent deficiencies or aging that we have going on the defensive side of the ball. So I like the hire. Let y'all chime in on that. But I also like the fact that he rounded out pretty much his entire staff to this point. Maybe save for a few second-level assistants, but he got to work, filled out the staff, and, week before the Combine, here we go.
Yeah, no doubt. How do you feel about it?
I don't know. I think it was always Staley. I think we joked around. He was bringing in, I guess we were interviewing other people, and I said, yeah, just end up on Staley. I think he was going to take care of Staley all along, which is fine. I mean, it's his staff. He should bring in the people he thinks he's going to work best with. I would my caution would be he was 1 year as a DC and got a head coaching job, and it's another one of those tales of taking these coordinators just because they won a Super Bowl. And he had in his 2 full years at San Diego, I think he only got 2 years, right? And then
two and a half.
Did he? I thought he was.
He got fired a couple games into the third season.
Okay, I think he was 500 or so there, but. He was, with the Rams, you've got Aaron Donald, Jalen Ramsey. You've got just loaded talent, not good talent, exceptional talent.
Yeah.
Then you go to San Diego where he was head coach, and he also had exceptional talent. I mean, you have Khalil Mack and Bosa, and you have Derwin James, and you just have an arsenal of great defenders for the years he was there. So, what does that mean? They were good. So that's a plus. Yeah. Last year, I think he was just assistant head coach, right? And it was a bad year for the Niners.
Yeah, injury-wise.
Yeah, and tons of injuries. Never really got Greenwood back, and had other injuries as well. Offensive injuries all over the place. What was he? 24 and 24. Yeah, there you go. So 500 head coach, but he's not a head coach here. So I was on the side. I think Max and I even talked about this back then, that some of the stuff he was doing as a head coach was just bewildering. So I don't know. That was a very talented roster he had with the Chargers, and it didn't go the way they wanted. They did make the playoffs one year, and they blew that massive lead in Jacksonville. Yeah. So I'm kind of just like, we'll see what happens. I don't want to give too much credit when you have the type of players he had and put good defenses out there, because that's a huge advantage. Right. When you've got the best defensive player of our generation, probably, of the last 20 years, an all-pro corner who I don't think is as good as the hype, but is a good player. Brought in.
He excelled that year.
Von Miller was on that team. Let's not forget.
Oh yeah, no, they were loaded.
So it was a loaded team, and it produced as a loaded team. So he did what you should do with that talent. Am I super excited about it? No, I just think let's see what happens, and I'm not against it or for it. We'll just see. It's one of those things we were talking about in the head coach search. Those guys who get that job really fast, 1 year after being a successful coordinator, you're getting a head coach job, and there's just a lot of cases of that not working out. Let's be honest. Kellen Moore's career is way more established than even his, and he was a head coach for 2 years. But Kellen Moore was an OC for a very long time before getting his first chance. So, we'll see how it goes. I'm not pessimistic or optimistic about it. I just wait and see.
Yeah. I mean, I like it. It's I'm a big fan of the defensive coordinator that was a failed head coach. Because a lot of these guys, DA being a prime example, I think he's going to be very successful in Chicago with Ben Johnson. DA obviously was a great defensive coordinator, not at all fit to be a head coach. And I think Brandon Staley, we can go ahead and say it's the same situation. Some guys are just meant to be coordinators and are not meant to be head coaches. Yeah. But I do like all of the moves that we've done so far. I'm not over the moon over any of them, but I'm optimistic. I'm cautiously optimistic about all of them. Doug Nussmeier, we loved the Nuss when he was, a 6th or 7th round quarterback?
Fourth.
He was a fourth rounder?
Yeah, they were they're going through his resume. He was a 4th rounder.
Yeah, look, we were a fan of the Nuss, man. He would come in. He was a little gunslinger from
he got to play
Idaho.
A little bit. Yeah.
Got to play a little bit. Didn't really do much, but he was a crowd favorite for us. And I think it was a foregone conclusion, once Kellen Moore got hired, that it was going to be Doug Nussmeier, Brandon Staley as the two coordinators. And, I've seen debates going on the Twitters about certain things were called. It's like, no, everybody knew it was going to be Nussmeier.
Yeah, that wasn't
and Staley. No sources were breaking this information. It was pretty much known.
That wasn't a proof that I'm right as a dude type of hire.
Not to delve into that, but either way, I like both hires. I think both of them make sense. I like the fact that Staley has been a head coach, even though he was a failed head coach, although he was a 500 record. I mean, there's obviously been worse records than 500. So,
he made the playoffs.
He made the playoffs. Look, but that being said, I like the fact that you got to think he learned something in his failed stint as a head coach, and he can offer some advice, some guidance to Kellen Moore, given that this is Kellen Moore's first chance.
You hated him though.
He was terrible as a head coach. I hated DA as a head coach, but I would love
feel like
DA as a defensive
he was
coordinator.
500. You're putting the Saints spin on it. You hated that guy.
But obviously,
he's a terrible head coach.
Well, Max has been very much on record that whoever we hire, whatever I'm saying about him now, I'll talk myself into it.
Yeah.
So we know that about Max, which is fine because I think we all do
I'll take
whether we admit it or
more
not.
Optimistic viewpoint once he's one of ours.
But the reality is, Staley's the type of guy where if it had been announced in the process of bringing in Moore for an interview, bringing in Kafka for an interview, and they're interviewing Staley for head coach, then we would have had any right to be that's questionable.
I would be angry as hell if you were.
And the same thing was with Kingsbury. People all up in arms Kingsbury turned us down. It's well, look at his head coach record.
Do you really want him?
It's what do you? I mean, if he turned us down, good. I mean. Ralph Mulbray was saying it. He's God, Mickey's been saved from himself 3 times during this whole process, and that could be true, and that could have been could have been with Staley. But I like the fact that he's brought in as a coordinator because we said it with DA. It's he shouldn't have been a head coach, should have been a coordinator. Now he was never going to stay on as a coordinator, of course, but some guys are just meant to be coordinators. That
I would be thrilled Like, you could tell me right now we're bringing DA back as a defensive coordinator, I would be thrilled.
Me too.
Yeah, I mean, he
The
would
thing is,
never
though,
do
if you
it,
told
but
me he were coming back as the head coach, I would have my pitchforks out on Airline Drive. And it's the same thing with Staley. If you told me he were interviewing for the head coaching job, I'd be like, this is fucking terrible. What are we doing?
The benefit of that
If
is
it's a DC,
that
fine with it.
DA took 5 years to get another shot. So you've got your DC for a long time. If
Yes.
this works out,
Yeah.
he's not going anywhere. You're not going to get them. He's going to have to prove it and build back up, like everyone on their second chance.
Yeah.
Like we said, that team, soon as he left, went straight to the playoffs. Let's not forget that. They lost a bunch of people, and they went straight to the playoffs just with the coaching change.
Yeah.
So he's not going to get a chance. If we're successful 2 years in, he's probably going to be here a little while.
That's a great point.
Which is good.
Yeah.
I
So,
think
like, he's got, he was a assistant last year, first year as a not head coach. So he's got, 4 years with us, and then he'll go Saints somebody like DC did.
if our defense comes right back around over the next couple of years,
some unsuspecting team will have fire Brandon Staley shirts, in 4 short years, but which is fine. I will say though, as far as the rest of the staff, I like it, like you said, Max. Like, some of them kind of don't move the needle. People were saying Phil Galliano, special teams coordinator, was the quote right move. Players love Keith Williams, so he's still on as wide receiver coach. Of course, interesting move that we have no idea the football sense it makes, like good or bad, is the Chase Haslett as tight ends coach. It's like
He's got history with more.
I saw that kid at the Palace Elmwood once when he was actually a kid.
Yeah.
Like that's Jim Haslett. Oh, he's taking his kid to the movie.
You feel old yet?
No.
well, y'all are the same age, so you were also a kid.
No, he's like 12 years younger or whatever.
He's what?
He's a lot younger.
How old
than
is
me.
he? 32, 33?
He's like
How old's
He's not much younger than
30. He's like 8 years younger than me. So I could have been like,
Is he?
So you're admitting you're old.
I'll look it up.
yeah. It's remember seeing the kid at the movies. And then, but there, Nugent, I like that on offensive line. We were really good on offensive line when he was with us, 18 through 21, I believe is when he was here with us.
Who are the two guys we got from the Eagles?
So I'm glad you mentioned that, because the two guys, Nuss came from the Eagles, and then the one you said
there's two, because there's the strength and conditioning.
Yeah, well,
Yeah, that's important.
That's important.
I was going to say, you said you weren't over the moon for anybody. I'm over the moon for that director of sports science hire. That is huge. Ted Rapp.
Well, let's also say he was not on the Eagles this past season, but he was for the seasons leading up.
I thought he was.
No, he wasn't. Look it up.
Damn it.
Doesn't matter.
I thought he was literally the strength and conditioning, because
he was not there this past year. There was a whole bunch
the stat I was about to drop is meaningless now, because they had 21.
You should have fact checked before you started. Look him up and see. Confirm. Maybe I'm wrong, but I read this the other day that he was actually not with the Eagles for the 2024 season.
He's 32, Corey.
Double check it for me though.
7 years younger.
But who's the one who offensive line assistant? I think I can't remember his name from the Eagles. Was with the Eagles this year. I can't remember his name.
We got Nugent, and then, but he spent 2023 with more Brendan Nugent, and then it looks like
That's the one I'm thinking of, who is just with the Eagles, right? Correct.
I don't know who is with the Eagles anymore now. I was convinced.
No, he was with both of them were with the Eagles, but the one of them was not in 2024.
That may have been Nugent, because I could have sworn Rath was like the guy.
Boy, we have Google. Google his name. I just don't know his name offhand.
Yeah, I'm getting there. You just said I'm old. Come on.
Well, Nick's the one that struggles with technology. You should be way ahead on this.
That's true.
Okay, Ted Rath is he's the director of sports science.
Yeah.
So people may know him as Sean McVay's original Get Back
Yeah, he was.
guy, the one who had to keep grabbing McVay and keep him from running onto the field. Trying to find the other guy's name while you look up Rath and his history. What is this guy's name?
So I don't know what he was doing last year. Then he
is, the guy I'm thinking of, TJ Paganetti from the Eagles, was the run game specialist and assistant offensive line coach for Philadelphia. That's the one I'm excited about as well.
Yeah, so I don't know what he did last year, because all it says is through the 2023 season for Rath.
Research, my friend, research.
Yeah, well,
Before we start.
Anyway, so he
we got to keep everybody interested.
look. Regardless, he
Real-time
did
information.
he did a great job.
Yeah,
with
they were
the Eagles,
they were still
even
healthy.
though he wasn't on the team this past year.
Because I was going to say they had 21 of 22 day one starters playing the Super Bowl, and
Yeah.
so I thought that was his doing, and well,
There you go. This is what happens when you're live, right?
yeah.
Or no, Paganetti.
Okay.
Look him up. That's the one I'm excited about because
Okay. Tell me why.
run game coordinator, assistant offensive line coach. He's been there for a while, so he's been a part of building up all that.
Paganetti.
I don't know how you knew about this guy and you didn't know about Paganetti.
I don't
Anything
know.
that says
Wow.
we have someone new in charge of potentially stopping injuries,
Yeah.
No, that's
it's the
good.
most important thing
better.
ever.
And it is not an Oshner employee. No offense, Oshner, but it's just, like,
Can he work for the Pelicans as well, potentially? We'll just send
Well,
him over in the offseason.
But it's just funny though, for how they ended up with the last guy, what was his name, Matt Rea, who was the sports science guy for the last couple of years. He wasn't even the guy they were trying to hire. He was like the assistant to that guy.
Mhm.
It'd be like fucking you showing up for an interview, and then you decide at the last minute you don't want the job, and they're like, "Well, Corey was with him on a podcast. I guess we can hire him."
yeah. Like, let me
That
tell
sounds about right.
let me tell you about the guy that's
All right.
got a lot less experience.
Yeah,
But he's great. He's great, I swear.
no, but look, anyone who comes from the Eagles at this point, it's way better than people coming from the Raiders, like we've been doing the last couple of years, right?
Correct.
We've been emulating like the worst run franchise of the past 20 years. Now we're emulating the Super Bowl winning franchise. Like, can we get someone who worked
Yeah.
with Howie Roseman, please?
Yeah, that's what we need.
I also like Joel Thomas as the running backs coach because he was great.
He was here before.
Yeah, he was like bros with Ingram and Kamara when he was with us. He was just like a known because he was like all involved on the sideline. I mean, he seemed like just real good player coach energy, the kind of stuff you want out of a position coach. So he went to the Giants last year, and it's like DA leaves, and whoop, now he's back.
I like the wide receiver coach staying though, because that dude he was like a personal coach for a lot of prominent Pro Bowl, All Pro wide receivers. So he's obviously doing something right, and
he's
look, I'm fine
respected.
with him staying.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to knock him for whatever you want to call the performance, good or bad, of the guys that were left at the end last
His
year.
injuries more than anything.
Yeah, I mean,
It wasn't terrible anyway.
It wasn't
they
terrible.
did. The guys that were left did okay. So
And Galliano, I mean, Underhill was thrilled about it. That's all I'm going to say. I don't really know shit about him.
I don't know. I can't.
Special
say,
teams was-
I can't claim to know anything
Look,
about
special
him.
teams
but-
was fine when he took over for Rizzi when Rizzi got promoted to head coach during the season. So
Was
I mean,
it?
It wasn't
Was
great.
it though?
Max.
It wasn't
That's not
great, but I
true.
mean, there was a lot of voodoo going on with the missed kicks and stuff. So
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe Galliano's got a hand in that or a foot in that. We'll see.
Yeah. Well, at least it's 100% him and not like him with the real special teams guy looking over his shoulder.
Yeah.
That'll probably help things, I guess.
Let's do this. Let's talk about defense. Let's go ahead and assume 3-4.
Yep.
Say all the evidence points towards 3-4.
Mm-hmm.
For our purposes, let's assume it's going to happen.
Yep.
Looking at our current roster right now, I mean, I guess we could start with the defensive line. What are your thoughts as it relates to the holdovers transitioning from a 4-3 to a 3-4? Now, obviously, look, it's not going to be a 3-4 every down. It's not going to be a 4-3 every
Right.
down. You're still probably going to see 5 DBs a lot of the time.
Yeah.
But let's just say 3-4. How do you feel about the current makeup of the team?
I mean, I think it puts.
does anybody fit? I should ask.
I think Brzee in particular fits as one of those, edge, not edge, but I have to look up all my 3-4 terminology now.
left in.
Yeah, like one of the left or right ends. The first thing that stands out to me is that we need to find a nose tackle. I know we got Christian Boyd who kind of fits what you're looking for, but if he's not that, then we need to find depth at the nose tackle. Because I mean, Shepard and Saunders are now kind of odd men out because they don't really fit the end position.
Well, they look like cap cuts anyway.
Yeah, and
Just based on
so
the contracts.
it makes it interesting for Cam as a rotational piece. I know there's going to be talks about his contract, his future, et cetera, but it does, if he's going to play the same percentage of snaps that he did last time, he might actually do a little bit better in one
Hold
of those.
on, breaking news. So Nick, his son plays ball with Tank Jordan. So
yeah.
apparently Cam told the kids that he's going to play one more year.
He's playing this year.
Hey,
sure.
breaking news.
Well, one more year.
That sounds like
all the retirement stuff. I don't
that's-
think
that sounds like a
is real.
source. You know how that source is legit? It's a kid on a soccer field.
That's right. That's where you get the scoop.
Those are the real sources.
You get the
ladies
scoop.
and gentlemen.
Hey, he's got a picture of Tank and James on the field at the same
All
time.
right, well,
man.
good. You
Come on.
heard it here first.
So
Heard it here
He's
first.
playing. I saw some stuff about the retirement today, and
Cam's
some
coming
people
back.
like, here's the plan. I'm like, I don't think Cam's retiring at all.
Yeah, he's not
Yeah,
retiring.
no, I definitely see him wanting to do one more year. He wants to make. Some will say he has not quite solidified his Hall of Fame case yet.
That's not true.
But he wants to make
people not in the know.
Right. He wants to make sure there's zero doubt on that. And I think he believes, and I would agree, that one more even semi-productive season will, do that. And especially for longevity's sake, if he makes it through even a 10, 13 game season out of 17, it'll go a long way.
He's
to
in,
solidifying that.
I think he's in already, and he probably isn't going to wait that long. He's not first ballot, but he's not waiting very long.
Yeah.
It's going to be in the first 3 or 4 years.
I think it benefits him. I saw some stuff floating around that it could benefit Foskey. I'm going to be a see it when I believe it on that one, because his quality of play, just the inability to seem to affect anything. And I know I've been on record about Foskey's value or lack thereof to the team. And obviously the guy works hard. He's a smart guy from Notre Dame. So I'm not knocking the dude, obviously. Works his ass off. But I just haven't seen the results on the field to say that he would be, to say that like a scheme shift would just be the thing he needed. Now, also, people will say, well, look what Zach Bond did. He went from, he didn't fit in a 4-3. He went to more of a 3-4 or just hybrid that the Eagles were running. And it's all he needed was just to play in a different role. And look what happened. Well, yes, but I don't know that I see Foskey as being somebody with the same physical talent or attributes, even relatively speaking.
Hold on. No, Foskey's got the talent. So I'm looking at his NFL Combine results where he was 6'5", 264, ran a 4.58, 166 10-yard split, 34 vertical, 10.5 broad jump. I mean, these are all damn good numbers. And looking at the overview, and
just not super good at football.
Well, maybe the coaching will help. I was about to say, because it doesn't matter how good your raw scores are if you can't learn how to be in position or play the scheme that's called
he didn't forget how to play football. I mean, this guy was a second round pick.
I'm not saying he forgot. I
think look, a lot of it's on him. Obviously, the majority of it's on him.
I don't think he ever
failed
learned
him as a coaching staff.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I don't know that he ever learned how to play NFL football. There's a big difference between putting years back in college, especially with Notre Dame's schedule when he was there, versus playing in the NFL nose to nose against some of the best offensive linemen in the world. And so did he ever learn how to do that? Probably not. He had Todd Grantham telling him how to do things.
I'm putting way more on him than I am on the coaches. When the coaches, if they sign off on drafting someone in the first 2 rounds, they think they're contributors right out of the gate.
Yeah.
So they saw a role for him. This isn't like, oh, it's not the right scheme. No. They saw a role for him if you're taking him in the second round. Bond is a little different situation. He was a mid-round pick. Mm-hmm. Hey, we see talent there. We're going to see if we get him in here and we can do something different with him. Who knows? They wanted him to play. I still think Bond could be a great third down rushing linebacker. I still believe that.
Could have been for us.
Yeah. And because when we gave him those spots, you could see him.
We just had this weird stubbornness about not pulling the trigger on that.
I mean, Bond was the 74th pick. That's early third round.
But, I mean, I don't know. I still think that kind of fits in the next point. It's not a second rounder. It's not a first rounder. Now, I don't know. I mean,
you're not drafting someone you're trying to fit into something else.
For sure.
It's just not. So
we can woulda, coulda, shoulda all day long. But
I'm going to say this, though. Learning what we learned about Todd Grantham and some of the other guys on the coaching staff, I'm willing to give Foskey this offseason and preseason to show something. Because, new scheme, maybe the light bulb flicks on for him.
So you're automatically putting him on the roster this season? Because
No, God, no. But I'm putting him. He needs to be in training camp, and you got to see what you got.
Yeah,
and maybe it's a 3-4, edge rusher.
I think we all agreed at the end of the season. Yeah. Kendre and Foskey have to make the team now.
Absolutely.
They do not have a spot. They need to go win a spot.
They're on the bubble, both of them.
Right.
Yeah. No, I agree with that.
If
he does great, then
I'm not going to say he's a.
Look, he took Pennington year 3.
You keep Foskey at all costs, but I will slightly.
No one's saying keep him at all costs.
But I was on the opposite end of the spectrum not too long ago.
You were saying cut him last year.
I was saying get rid of him. Stop thinking about it. I will slightly curtail this only because of the shift. Okay, different scheme. I'll believe it. I still believe it when I see it, but at least. Let's see it.
Nick and I both told you last year when you were on your cut Foskey out of training camp, Ranton is second.
If we were rolling with a 4-3 again, I still say like you could do better.
No, you can't. I mean, as a second round pick, I think he was the 40th pick. You don't cut those guys after 1 year. You simply don't. Most of the time, you don't cut them after year 2.
I know that's
give
what
them to the third.
Look, I know that's what the book says, but I'm saying I've seen enough to where you go off book, and you.
But we haven't seen enough. He just hasn't played.
I've seen enough. I'm giving you this is my opinion. Okay, and so
you like the roster for the 3-4?
My expert scouting opinion.
Let's just get back to that. You like the roster for 3-4?
Yeah. I mean, well, no, wait. I like the fact that we are going to a 3-4.
Slide your computer over. I want to look.
I don't know that. There's only certain players I can say right now that I like for a 3-4 because I'm looking at guys like, you got Granderson, Young, and Peyton Turner. I think they're a little bit wonky.
You don't have Young, though.
You don't have Young.
We don't have Young. So, I mean, Young, this is a decent excuse to kind of let Young go.
He doesn't fit.
I don't think he fits a 3-4.
He's not a 3-4 lineman.
Peyton Turner, I don't see a spot for him at 3-4. He plays way too high up.
He's not either.
He's a free agent
as well. And then Granderson is kind of a tweener still. He's big enough to play right or left end.
Bulked up.
He's big. That's what I'm saying. But he's still kind of a.
No,
maybe he's.
They were saying he was around the 275, 280 mark.
But put it this way, I love DeMario as obviously still one of the inside linebackers.
Yes,
I think he played a 3-4 with the Jets when he was there. And then
Pete looks like your other middle linebacker.
Pete can be okay as another middle. He would be better I think he's probably better suited as a will. Assuming the Sam in a 3-4 is usually the one that jumps up to the on ball.
I think they're both
2-point stand. I wouldn't mind seeing us bring in or draft. See, this is why my guy Jalen Walker would be great. This is almost
he's an outside linebacker in the 3-4.
But he played this style under Kirby. Kirby run, and he's familiar with it. He fits.
Who are your two outsides in 3-4 right now? We're not talking about the draft.
We don't have to.
You don't have to.
That's what I'm saying. That's why I don't like it now.
So yeah, I don't know that I like the guy that I think this benefits the most in knowing the type of from what I've heard, the things that Staley typically runs with the star position in a 3-4, and I'll say my guy again in college, he does the same thing with the star.
No, you're going to say Alante?
Alante. I think Alante can definitely benefit. Now, we can only have Alante benefit if we shore up the outside, You
got to resign a Debo to make it work.
Staley is another guy.
You also
I remember
have to convince Alante to stay in that.
He's the one that's been like
unleash
all
me.
over.
I know.
So I think if you.
But I'm an outside corner also with him 3 months ago.
And it's also semantics. And I think in this age of real-time information, branding, marketing that all these guys are into, semantics matter. Words matter.
That's an old depth chart, by the way. Can you pull up a more recent one?
This is the most recent ESPN has. What's the other website? The Pro Football Reference. Anyway, but if you told Alante you're going to be a slot corner, like, man, that means I'm third. F that shit, man. If you're like, hey, you're going to be our star in this new defense, it's like, oh, unleash me.
He's been pretty hell bent on saying he's a corner, a lockup corner.
Yeah, but if he's
not,
we all have said,
but if you
for
say
a very long time now,
safety,
he needs to be free and to be able to make impactful plays because he led the league in those type of plays.
Yeah,
from the slot. So why not put him in even more of those situations to make impact plays? Blitzing, doing that, how they would use Jalen Ramsey sometimes in that defense and move him around and not just as that. Or Derwin James in former San Diego, in LA.
Yeah, it's kind of a dated reference now, but the most fun I had watching a player line up in different spots as a Saints fan was Kenny Vaccaro. When he first got he
was terrible.
I'm not saying he was great, but his rookie year,
you know why they kept moving him in different spots? Because he couldn't play anyone, and they were just trying to find a spot to put him.
He was terrible. You took no joy out of watching him play. If you did,
I remember a time when I did.
I remember one time I did. It's when Steve Smith picked him up and threw him into our sideline.
Yeah,
like he was a rag doll.
His later years with us were not good.
His early years with us were not good.
He only had 4, right?
Good rookie year.
He was gone by like year fucking 4.
I remember him having a good rookie year,
and he was out the league. I think.
He had an okay rookie year.
I'm not talking about his fourth, whatever. I'm just saying.
He wasn't good. I'm sorry.
Right, it's fine. Whatever.
You're on a roll today, man. About to drop stats about the Eagles starters not missing any games this year, and
maybe I just got too excited when I read the Wrath news. I'm like,
I think you did. No. So I'm looking at the defensive depth chart. Granderson, I feel okay about him. Maybe he's probably solid at right end. Cam, you're fine at left end there as a backup.
But wouldn't you rather to put Brazil
there? No,
yeah.
I said as a backup. So Brazil to me makes total sense as a left end in a 3-4. Boyd, he's more of a pure nose tackle. I think he's the only, maybe Ridgeway. You and I were talking about that, possibly him.
You can rotate Ridgeway in there.
Nathan Shepard's a defensive end in a 3-4.
Yeah.
He's gone though, right?
He's probably gone. It's a cap casualty. Colin Saunders
is probably gone.
Same thing. Chase Young, most likely gone. Let's see who else we have. Cameron Peterson, who I know is actually a tweener anyway, so he makes sense as an end in that scheme. Linebackers, Warner, Davis make more sense as inside linebackers to me in 3-4.
We don't have the outside linebacker.
We don't have an outside linebacker to do it. You try Foskey there. Maybe it works, maybe it doesn't. Willie Gay makes no sense as an outside in that scheme. DeMarco Jackson, inside strictly in that scheme.
Gay's gone also, though, right? A potential.
Yeah, most likely. Nephi Sewell, I don't see a spot for him.
Inside.
Orgy, they're not outside. Ford, I don't think we don't have an outside linebacker yet. So hold on.
Yep.
Corners. So if you do move Alante back into that nickel or quote unquote star role, okay, that makes sense. But then you pretty much have to re-sign a Debo. If you don't, you've just got Kool-Aid, Rico Payton, Shamar John Charles, and Rezone Wright. So you really need to bring Paulson Adebo back.
I want to bring Adebo back anyway, even before this switch.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Especially because he's going to be discounted now. So
you say that, I don't think that's a definite thing. I can see somebody throwing money at him.
How much are we talking?
More than we can afford.
I'm just saying, give me a number you think someone's going to throw at him.
I could see him getting $8 to $10 million a year.
I don't think anyway 10. I could see 8 on a 1-year deal. He missed the last 10 games.
I don't think he's coming back at like a $2 million discount.
No. I said 5 to 6 when we originally talked about it. Is what I thought he would get.
I could see that, but I think
could
that's a long
see
shot.
someone giving him 8. I could see that desperate. I don't see 8 figures for him.
He's the most fascinating free agent we have, I think, just from what will he get standpoint. Look, all right, so safeties, let me finish rolling through this. Will Harris, you've got to re-sign Will Harris. I think we all loved him. He was a great pickup. Jordan Howden going in year 3. Honey Badger still around. JT Gray, not much at safety other than those guys. So we don't, to your point, we do not have a single 3-4 outside linebacker on the team.
We got work to do.
Yeah. But to your point, that opens up Jalen Walker.
Yep.
Would make absolute sense.
Yep.
Another one I'm going to bring up, who was mocked in the top 5 in every preseason mock, is James Pierce from Tennessee. Yeah. Now, if you look at his size profile, I think he's like 6'5", but he only weighs like 245.
Mm-hmm.
Made no sense for the Saints as a 4-3 defensive end. Makes absolute sense for the Saints as a 3-4 outside pass rusher. So
if he's pass rushing only, my only concern with him is that inevitably, you're going to have to. These guys they have to have the ability to drop into coverage. So like you have typically with the 3-4, at least the last time I read up about it, or as I understand it, of your 2 outside linebackers, one of them is more primarily pass rusher. Your weak side is
that's your left outside linebacker,
drops into
side,
coverage, so strong side, weak side, and so one of them will be more primarily pass rusher, and then one of them is going to have the ability to drop into coverage. Both of them ideally would be able to.
Right.
So so when I look at guys like Pierce, I think this, even if most mocks have him there, but he was mocked at one time as one of the top few picks, but Michael Williams, now he's falling.
Now he's in the middle.
But now I think Michael is a guy who's no longer, I think, if there was some crazy world in which Abdul Carter falls, you take him no matter what. But he's one of those freaks, like a Von Miller, that type of guy. You can play him in a 4-3, 3-4, doesn't matter. So there will always be those guys that can play in either scheme. But this definitely opens up for a different type of draft profile on the front 7.
Now we're open for a James Pierce.
Yeah.
Now we can absolutely do that.
And it also
whereas before there was no shot.
And I think in later rounds, it opens us up to look for maybe a large, like the bigger, more built like the Mario type of linebackers. Because you need, I think your 2 inside guys, you need thumpers. You want. I think Warner still fits. Like, you put Warner on a blitz, he's going to get home.
Warner will be fine in that scheme.
But yeah.
But he's not a definitive outside. You know what I mean? You could.
No.
He's not your he's not your hand in the dirt guy that comes up on the line.
No.
OLB, but he can certainly be the other outside linebacker on the weak side, or strong side, whatever they decide to do.
I think it's creating a bunch of holes that need to be filled.
It does. I mean, immediately, because you're built. And look, let's stop overthinking it. Like, it's built for a 3-4. It just a 4-3. It was built for a 4-3. So now we switch. It's got to be totally.
But the good news is there's a lot of old talent on the defense that we have been needing to move on from anyway.
Yeah.
So this is just a good reason to go ahead and do it and retool.
I mean, do they even bring Peyton Turner back now? Do they?
I don't see.
I think so. Chase Young's gone. I think Turner's probably gone because of this. I think so. You're gonna have a lot of holes to fill.
Because was it this year we had to pick up his option, or we did not pick it up last year?
We did not pick it up last year.
So now he's
gone.
Yeah, now
it's the same thing. Basically, him and Adebo are in the same spot because they were the same year, right?
No, Adebo was a second-round pick. There was no option to pick up.
I know. So they're both in the same spot since we didn't pick up his option, right?
I think
they were the same year, correct?
Should be, yeah.
Yeah. So they're both just finished their fourth year.
Yeah. They're both just free agents.
Free agents.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So he's probably gone, which, man, that's a bust of a first-round pick for a career. But, yeah, I mean, I think we're going to need like 3 or 4 starters somehow with no cap space, and we do have draft picks, so you better hope you nail everything.
Load up on the draft picks. I mean, there's going to be a lot of undrafted free agents making the team this year. That's all I'm going to say, especially on defense. Yeah. Because you're going to be filling holes with those guys.
What about... does it mean we're definitely drafting defense? Probably does.
Well, here's the thing. We've been spending all the time talking about defense. Let's not forget that offense has its issues too.
Not as many as the defense.
Switching the defense made it a bigger priority.
Made it a way bigger hole.
But we still need my opinion, a left guard.
That's not your opinion. That's a statement of fact. Okay. We absolutely need
a left guard.
That being said, you can get one of those guys in the middle rounds.
We definitely need. Well, we've said that with guys like Saldiveri, et cetera, and they just have not panned out.
Well, Saldiveri got hurt this year with his first chance, so there's still a chance he could actually be that guy at left guard. I'm not writing Saldiveri off yet. He's not.
I'm not totally writing him off, but I mean, we need a starter at left guard, and
you just need someone who's not going to just shit their pants on a consistent basis, but just be someone who's just going to be average. You don't need to be a star; just be average. You're in between McCoy and Fuaga, the two best linemen on the team. Just go ahead and just be average. Just be serviceable.
I feel like that's what we rolled with last year, and it.
Patrick was okay, man. It's just that he's 32 and gets.
He was good. He could have been.
But that shows you can find that guy cheaply in free agent that you could plug in. Yeah, I mean, look no further than Patrick.
But in terms of holes on it, so we need that. We need.
Yeah, but you're not. I guess my point is you're not drafting. A left guard at pick number 9.
No, you're not.
And if you do, you absolutely need to be fired into the sun.
Right. You do not do that.
I think Ralph in their Discord put up the perfect analogy of it. He's like, you got a back screen door that needs to be replaced, but you don't spend $90,000 on it, which is what you would be doing if you drafted a left guard at pick 9.
I would not. I've never.
You take your chances in the 3rd round or 4th round, whatever. Pick someone. We have 2 3rd-round picks. Use one of them on the left guard.
But I'm saying, like, it's hard to predict that we go more defense, more offense, because, I mean, there's really no way to know right now. It depends on how the board falls.
There's no wrong answer.
Yeah. I mean, you need people.
You can pick any position.
You need people everywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah. Offense, you need one offensive lineman at least. You need skill, any kind of skill, tight end, wide receiver, running back. You need. Yeah. We have very limited skill. Now, okay, maybe Olave and Shaheed for the first time in their careers play a whole season, and maybe Kamara plays his first whole season in 4 years at 30 years old. Probably not.
But yeah,
you need help everywhere.
You still need more.
We don't have a tight end. There's Foster Moreau is the tight end.
Yeah.
People are wanting to move on from CARR, so you don't really have a quarterback. I
just hope we take
advantage. Careful there.
What?
You might disrupt the.
I don't care. Like, if you think that's the replacement next year, you just don't watch football.
No, he's not. He is.
I'm not saying cut him, but that's not a solution.
If you want a project and a whole boatload of uncertainty as the replacement, then sure, and you very well could go, 2 or less wins.
You know what, though? I guess the first domino that
If
needs
you
to
like
fall,
Rattler, you better hope Carr's on the team next year. I'm going to say that.
Yeah.
If you give him another year of failure, that's
shouldn't-
going to
Yeah, so look, the first domino that needs to
should not be
fall
that
is going to be
outlandish,
Derek
yeah.
Carr's situation. And I think it's the March 15th is the first, fork in the road where they need to do something. I think he's got a roster bonus that's going to hit if on that date. So I think we'll know something by March 15th on what they're doing with Carr. That's going to dictate, obviously, everything else.
Yeah.
Yes, and I still stand by their keeping him, but I don't think he's Kellen Moore's guy, but I think he probably sees that that's his best option at the moment, unless they feel strongly about Shador or something and he falls to 9.
I can see Kellen Moore going to get someone like a Cooper Rush for this year if they got rid of Carr.
What's his situation, though?
Let me look and see. Keep talking while I look up.
I mean, we talked about Fields. We talked about. I mean, Russ is going to be available too. Do you just go get Russ for $5 million and get rid of Carr? What's the savings difference if we do punt him immediately? It's not a huge savings versus keeping him. Right?
No,
I mean,
it's not. But
there's no way.
it's more about the future cap.
I mean,
Cooper Rush is an unrestricted free agent.
you would save by cutting him, but the dead money is still
You don't. The net is like completely
the
balanced
net's
out.
Yeah, but I mean, like he would count less. You would have cap savings by moving on from him, but next year's it would like Max said, the net would.
I'm going to say this: Cooper Rush threw
Negligible.
12 touchdowns, 5 interceptions last year. I would much rather watch him play football than Spencer Rattler this year. Just throwing it out there.
From an entertainment perspective,
He's
not
better
a win,
than
from a
Spencer
win-loss perspective. Yeah, but
they weren't good with him in there.
What's entertaining about
I
Rattler? There wasn't one thing he did that was entertaining. So he jumped up once.
younger,
and just threw
stronger
it.
arm. I mean, Cooper Rush is boring as shit, and not that good.
Losing is boring, bro. We got blown out of the building.
No, I
every
know.
time Rattler
But it was
played.
hard to watch.
that
Rattler
is
play
like-
football for me.
The decision between Rush and Rattler, like, don't give me that decision. That's
Watching
horrible.
60 minutes to see
either
one
way.
jump pass is not fun.
No,
to
I'm
watch.
talking about for the 2025 season. I'm
No, I
not
know.
talking about beyond.
No, I know.
For
I know.
2025, give me someone competent. I don't want to watch everyone's pet go out
I
there
would
and embarrass himself.
rather see someone who has been a starter in this actual starter in this. I know Cooper Rush has started games.
Well, Corey, we don't have money to go sign one of these guys. You want to re-sign Jameis? Please, if you say yes, I'm going to slap you on camera.
That's the world you're talking about.
That's the
though.
world you're
But I
talking
mean,
about.
You're talking
Yeah.
about Russ, Fields, Jameis. No telling what any of those
I'd
guys
rather-
will get on the open
much
market.
rather go with Russ or Fields before Cooper Rush. I mean, you're
Why are you hating on Rush, man?
he's just bland. He's
What does
just-
Fields
ugh.
get? Honestly, because you just brought in Kellen Moore, who had Jalen Hurts. What does it cost to get Fields in?
I have no idea.
Is
8 mil?
You think that's it? If that's
Eight-
all
8
it
to 10, I
is,
think.
and you want to punt Carr and you want to bring Fields in and do the run/pass quarterback,
Like,
I'm fine with it.
I'm fine with that.
It fits what Kellen Moore did last year.
yeah.
I'd be fine with something like that. I think Rattler as the solution for next year.
It's not a solution.
No.
I'm of the stance that you go in every season trying to win.
yeah.
Once you know it's off the table, do whatever you want.
Right.
You want to play all the young guys. You want to do all that.
Starting Rattler is waving a white flag before the season
Right.
starts.
You're in the worst division in football.
Yeah.
Every team in our division is 1 or 2 injuries away from the season being over. Why would you go into that season like we're giving up?
So you're saying
To start
do
the
what
season.
Tampa Bay did the first year with Baker, where they were resetting the cap. They got someone who had been a starter in the league, and they said, if we win, great. If we don't, we're resetting our cap.
Right.
Yeah.
Or keep Carr.
Or keep Carr,
With,
yeah.
with that in mind, but same stance. Like, okay, we have one of those mid dudes. Maybe I overestimate him. I don't know. The number say he's a mid dude if you're just looking at it strictly statistically and performance. Don't go from that to Rattler next year to start out the year. I'm not saying cut Rattler or anything like that. I'm not. He's not ready.
Yeah,
it was
no,
clear.
no.
So him or a solution to replace him that isn't Rattler. So if Fields is available and he thinks he can run that Jalen Hurts offense with Fields, give it a shot.
Yeah.
And if it looks great for 1 year, sign him. Give him money.
Yeah.
If it doesn't, look in the draft. Do whatever.
Like, I guess, yeah, I agree with that. And that's why I like Russ or Fields. But I agree with y'all. There's really not a whole lot of options out there.
It's bad this year.
But I prefer a guy who was chosen to be the starter voluntarily by a team versus a guy that only played because the original starter got hurt. I don't want to Andy Dalton,
I mean,
sure, but
hold on. Kurt Warner was a guy who came in
you
because
can't compare
Trent Green.
Kurt Warner to Cooper Rush.
No, I'm
insane.
making the point that some players, and he's not the only one, have come in because the unquestioned starter got hurt. You think Tom Brady was chosen to be a starter?
For their same
No, Bledsoe
team.
got hurt.
That's
my point, though.
But
some of these guys, all it takes is a chance, and they come in.
But you've also seen Cooper Rush.
I have. But I'm telling you, he's better than Spencer Rattler.
You didn't see Kurt Warner.
Yeah,
You
I'm
didn't
not disagreeing.
he's way better
I'm
than
not
Rattler.
disagreeing that he would be a better win-loss product.
I want someone who is competent
But
for
if you're-
2025, not beyond, just 2025.
No, I know.
Give me someone who's competent because you know what? They raise ticket prices.
But you don't go.
And guess what? I don't want to pay more
You don't
to
go out
watch
and
a shittier
sign.
quarterback.
I don't want to pay money to go watch a team that's led by some other team's leftover backup quarterback.
You'd rather watch our leftover backup quarterback?
I'm
That's
not saying I
what he
would
is.
rather Rattler. I'd say that's why I'd rather bring in like a
To
Fields
Nick's
or
point,
Russ.
there has to be
You're committing-
someone who has actually started some games in the NFL and has won some games and has put up good stats.
You can't, in good faith, look your fan base in the eye and say we've made the decision that Cooper Rush is our guy this year. Who dat?
Our
Let's
fan
go.
base would be so thrilled that Carr is not on the roster that they would probably embrace him,
And they would-
especially if he came in and said something like, "Hey, I was here for Mardi Gras. Love New Orleans." Everybody would love him.
Yeah.
They would be sucking him off the second he just say something positive about New Orleans.
Until he
That's all you
said-
have
And
to
then
do.
if he
Well,
doesn't,
I don't know.
and
That's
then,
true.
and then he doesn't do that, and then you're just like, now you just hate on somebody else. You hate on Mickey for saying, well, you got
Corey,
rid of
they
Carr.
are just this fan base
Fine.
wants anyone but Carr.
It doesn't
Anyone.
make them right. Okay?
You wanna bring-
It doesn't make them right. but
They all
want
want
anyone.
Jameis.
If you're a
and
GM
Jameis
and
is
want
the
to bring
wrong
in
answer.
Cooper Rush to be your starter for even
Corey,
a
this
year,
fan base is still calling for Jameis.
Yeah, go for it.
Jameis
Fine.
is awful.
that's your stance. That's it.
No, my stance is
It's something.
there has to be someone who has actually started a few games in this league and has put up more touchdowns and interceptions.
Just give me a starter, okay? Like I get he's bottom barrel starter, but like Cooper Rush is not a starter; he's a backup.
Well, technically, Fields isn't a starter.
I agree. He's not.
He's not.
But
I mean, he
I am.
claimed out in Chicago.
I
I'm
think he's better than
leaning.
Cooper Rush.
I'm
They pitched
leaning
in
on
the
the
second
fact
rush was ready.
his style it could replicate. Not
Yeah.
saying he's as good as Jalen Hurts. I'm
style's
saying
more exciting.
it could replicate the type of thing he did with Jalen Hurts last year.
Yeah.
That's why I would lean that way if it was a possibility. But I don't. If there's not huge savings in getting rid of Carr, I don't
do it,
understand people's motivation getting rid of Carr. If there's huge savings, I totally get it.
Yeah,
The money has to come from somewhere. It's either going to come from a restructure of Carr or it's going to come from a restructure of multiple old
Correct.
defensive
Which
players.
means you have to restructure Carr. You can't double down on all the 35-year-olds. Times
that's why this is gone beyond not us, but like the whole discussion on
Right.
Carr, Cam, Tyron, whatever. It's gone way beyond X's and O's, even way beyond salary. It's totally like an emotional fan based opinions where people are just like, get this man off my team, get this man off my
That's
team.
all it is.
It's like, but
it's an echo chamber,
you-
and
you
one
don't-
idiot said it, and that's
like,
it.
we get it. You don't like the guy. And I don't know that I like Carr, the guy. But let's talk about what's really best for the team.
There's still
And
a business that has to be
Yeah,
run.
exactly. Like, so I don't want him in my locker room necessarily, but do I want to create what would be whatever the dead money is, like 26 million, 30 million next year in dead cap? No. Is he a 51 million hit on our cap this year? Yeah. If you don't restructure.
See, the difference is if you don't touch Carr's contract, you can cut him next year free
with
and
nothing.
clear.
Right.
That's the big thing that everyone.
But
That's
what-
what we should be looking
But
at.
cut
what
him this
Loomis
year.
did is, in order to pull that off, we have to go all in again on all the other big contracts that we don't want.
It's not as bad because with the cap going up this year. Underhill just wrote Triplett just wrote a great article.
Okay, give me the
about it.
people he's going to have to restructure. McCoy for sure. Cam.
It's less work than it would have been, but it's still work. Now,
Who else?
It's way less painful.
Let's go through
though.
this. Let's go through this real quick because it matters.
I'm pulling it up. There's actually a pathway that even with keeping Carr or restructuring Carr,
the Carr savings,
the
though,
cap space in 2026 is way
manageable.
It's a way rosier outlook than it was
Yeah.
before the.
Now, the one thing I don't like, and this again is more talking about like Carr the person versus Carr the quarterback or the salary that he has, is I don't like how absent he has been, though.
I don't give a fuck about that.
I don't know. I mean, you're supposed to be the leader of the team. Like, just do
Why,
something.
he doesn't have to be here during the Super Bowl. Who fucking cares?
He doesn't have to be, but it's just the whole. You are the quarterback of this goddamn team. Like, just do something.
His team's not playing in the Super Bowl. Who cares if he's here?
Okay.
If the fan base hates him, if he's here, they're going to be like, "Look at this asshole who thinks he's,
I'm just saying. I'm not going to talk.
That
I'm not saying
dude cannot win no matter what he does.
I'm not saying
if he
shit.
were here, this fan base would be bagging on him. Why is he here during the Super Bowl? That loser might not be on the team.
I'm not talking about the Super Bowl. He's just been. There's been nothing about like.
I don't know.
You're the guy that's you're going to.
What are you talking about if you're not talking about the Super Bowl? When hasn't he been
anything
here?
about like you have a new coach who's an offensive guy. Like you're supposed to be working hand in hand with
Corey,
him.
the guy
Like,
just signed last week.
I know.
Who else was
but,
here talking to
I mean,
him?
they were talking about hiring him for like.
We don't
forever,
know
but-
who's talking to who.
Who was here?
It
What
doesn't
leaders
matter.
were here?
It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
I mean,
You're doing what the
I'm
rest
not
of the
gonna-
fan base does, and you're fucking grasping for reasons.
I'm just
to
saying,
bag
I don't
him.
like it.
I understand that they don't like some of the stuff he's done and all that. I get it. They don't like just. Again, I think the whole New Orleans fan base thinks that there's just a Drew Brees around the corner again, where
Well, no,
he does
that's clearly
everything
wrong,
right,
yeah.
embraces the city exactly the way we want him to. You know, Jameis embraced the city perfectly, but he can't play football. So, like, I get it. I get it. We don't have that guy, but the guy is not awful on the field just because you don't like him.
He's got an above 500 record with us.
I know. And
No,
like,
I
so-
agree. we were in agreement about him on the field.
Like, I just like you can't listen to fans because 100% every fan, or I'm not gonna say every fan because clearly the three of us I think all agree that Jameis is not a solution.
Yeah.
The bulk of the fan base would say bring Jameis back. He's so much more fun. And that's just not a good way to run a team.
I agree that there is not. My statement on CARR, I just don't like the absence.
I get that.
That's just me. But I will say, as far as like the rest of the fan base, there's a severe, not all fans, but the reason this stuff bubbles up, it's like the vocal minority, like where there's a lack of critical thinking out of a lot of stuff you see out there that turns into wildfire. Where one caller in on WWL was like, seeing Jameis going around the city and he such a reporter, man, like. He was getting everybody's statements. He was so fun to watch. We should bring him back. And it was like there was no connection. There was no even attempt to connect him being a reporter with the football. But Bobby Aber correctly was like, "What him being a reporter got to do with being a quarterback?"
There's two different professions.
Yeah, and I was like, "Thank
All right,
God."
come out. To answer your question from a few minutes ago, so we are currently $51 million over the cap.
Yes.
So let's see what else. Okay, so the article that Mike Triplett wrote, New Orleans Football, awesome article, does a really good job of breaking down how we are actually closer to salary cap health than most people would expect. So let's see. So they said the easiest way for them to get under the cap is through their normal use of contract restructures, which is, for anyone who doesn't know, converting salaries into bonuses and pushing the cap costs into the future. So they said they could clear more than $54 million just by restructuring CARR, Cam Jordan, Taysom, McCoy. But for the purposes of this exercise, we're going to leave CARR's contract completely alone so we can discuss it later. So they project working out a pay cut with Cam Jordan, reducing his salary from $12.5 to $6 million, while also doing a restructure which would create $10.3 million in cap.
Has anyone asked Cam about this?
Probably.
Just saying. It's easy to say,
Sounds
hey,
like,
Cam will take half.
You got homework for your next soccer game.
Right.
So they project Nathan Shepard, Colin Saunders, Jamal Williams, all three to be cut.
Yeah.
Which frees up about 2.5.
That's nothing. Okay.
Nothing. But it also frees up another $7 million in 2026 cap space.
That's
They're
great.
permanently
Okay.
off the books at that point.
Yeah, that's good.
Let's see. Next, they say simple restructures with Taysom, McCoy, DeMario, Caesar, Granderson, Matthew,
Everybody.
Warner. No, that's what it is. Basically, CARR or the defense. So
You said it was small. That's insane.
no,
There's
because
no
you're
way
looking
I'm doing
at
that.
you're looking at smaller
We've
restructures. You're not looking,
restructured that amount of players before. It just sounds like a lot when you read them all together.
Yeah, we do. That's work.
But
every
that's what
year,
needs to
so.
stop. That's what I'm saying.
Well, the point is, you can either to get rid of CARR. That's what you got to fucking do.
And that's
People
why
need
I'm
to
not getting rid of
understand.
CARR. That's what I'm saying.
Right.
Because I don't want to do that. I don't.
So do you want to get
I
rid
wanna
of everybody
e-
that was on that list?
So you'd rather restructure CARR and start 86 in these guys?
Not necessarily 86 in them now because you don't have to. They're on their deals. Restructure CARR.
That's the
committing
other.
me to a second year.
That's
of
what I
CARR.
mean, though. Where they fall
maybe
off
that's
next year.
maybe that's
Yeah.
the next item of homework that Nick, the low key Best Saints podcaster out there, can do, and we can release our own column of like, okay, so we've seen what we have to do to keep
Nick Overhill.
all these guys.
Yeah, Overhill, baby.
What would happen if we keep CARR? How many of these guys do we have to jettison? You know, I mean that is
If
math.
you restructure cars,
you don't have to jettison anyone.
touch them.
How do you
They
not-
just fall off next year.
Yeah.
That's the thing. The money
Okay.
has to come from somewhere. So you either look.
It
there's
means
two-
you're
there's-
signing up for CARR for 2 years.
I always thought
There's two hands.
If
you can restructure CARR. Listen, you can restructure CARR and basically leave the other guys alone,
but if,
or you can restructure the other guys and leave CARR alone.
yeah,
That's basically option A and option B.
right, because you're basically
The money has to come from somewhere.
you're deferring the either or choice
Correct.
another
Correct.
year.
Yes.
You know, and that's going to be
So for me, what makes most business sense, take one more year of CARR. Doesn't stop you from doing anything at quarterback next year,
right,
just because he's on the roster.
right.
You don't gain a lot by moving on. So don't restructure all those guys. Let that decision happen next year because all those guys are a year older, and I don't want to extend them at all. So give me one more year of watching their play, see if there's any decline, and take on CARR for the second year. It gives you CARR for this year, which is probably a necessity. You know, we're talking about Justin Fields and all these like random. There's very little options available to us.
no way
We don't have a top 5 pick. The quarterback of the future is not probably available to us this year anyway. So go with CARR on for next year. If we are in a position to draft a quarterback or bring in nothing changes.
You're probably looking at a top 10 pick anyway because that defense is going to be atrocious.
It probably is.
Yeah.
So
you're probably looking at a top 10 pick anyway. It's just a more exciting offense to watch with CARR because they'll actually score.
And then it
points.
gives you 8 games of CARR for your rookie to get his feet under him in 26. Then the rookie's in, CARR's gone at the end of the season. Yeah. It all, for me, makes perfect logical sense in a rebuild. But he is good enough to win if the team is perfectly healthy.
Right.
Whereas if you go with just a Rattler just to cut him to save a little bit,
everything else has to be perfect.
Right.
Yeah.
Even more so.
Beyond perfect.
Rattler has to double his play.
The prudent move is to roll with CARR in 2025.
And I'm fully on the wagon of not going any further than that. We go 25, 26 on the restructure. Eat as much of it in 25 as you can. Put as much front-loaded instead of back-loaded this time. Max out the cap. Get as much of CARR's money into the 25 year. So the 26 years is as low as possible. Then reassess.
Here's the deal. They can cut him even if they restructure this year. They can cut him in 2026. Like he was saying. That's not off the table. But just because you restructure him doesn't buy you a second year.
It's about the dead money, you know.
Right.
What is the restructure going to do?
But to the same thing, you could
on?
you could restructure these defensive players and probably still move off of them without wrecking the cap. So
I think one calculus I would like to see is what happens to all the other guys that Underhill was talking about restructuring. Like his scenario included CARR sticking around, right?
So you're looking at
what
Cam plays one more year, then retires.
But what happens to them if you cut CARR?
They stay
this year. Because his article is about CARR staying for this coming
so
season.
they would designate CARR most likely as a post June 1 cut, which allows you to spread out the hit over the 2 seasons.
Correct.
But you would have to.
But
would you have to restructure
you're gonna
some
have
of those
to,
guys?
All those guys.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're going to have to.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So, like, that's the other thing people aren't talking about. It's like you want to get rid of them. You want to take the hit, eat it, whatever. That's fine.
I think that hurts the team more than helps it. That's what I'm saying.
People just cannot look at Derek Carr's situation from a neutral perspective. They just look at him with just venom in their eyes, and they fucking hate him, and they just want him off the team.
Okay, he is. I believe he's 14 and 13
like
as
the
a starter.
He's got a punch in the face. Yeah.
I think he's 14 and 13 with us.
Yeah.
100 quarterback rating. What do you think our record would have been without last year's injuries on the offensive line, Michael Thomas, all that? The defense was fairly good last year. Then this year, if Olave, Shaheed, Adebo, trading Lattimore, let's just say all that was together and they weren't hurt. How many wins do you think those injuries impacted?
I mean, at least
3 or 4.
At least.
Yeah. I'd say half of.
Let's just call it 3.
Half of the games for which
we had the Super Bowl champion Eagles on the ropes in the game that McCoy got hurt on the first series.
Yeah,
and we couldn't block for CARR for a second.
Yeah.
I mean, you saw that D-line destroy us after that.
We still almost won that game.
Yeah.
So guys don't run into
So let's just give it 3 games. I think that's a reasonably safe assessment because, that's some significant players been hurt the last 2 seasons.
8 and 9.
So then his record would be 17 and 10.
Oh, his record. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. The whole narrative would be different.
Mm-hmm.
So I can't blame our results firmly on Carr. Do I think Carr is elite? No. But that's not why
Yeah, people just
we've
don't
had
like
the last
him.
2 seasons we had. He's not.
It's kind of, look, do I like him as a guy? I don't know. But I will say the whole idea that I don't like him, so he's got to go, like, that's childish.
Right.
Yeah, but that's also 80% of our family.
I know, that's what I'm saying. Like,
I'm fine if
like,
no one likes him, and I get it. I get the reasons everyone say. Like, I'm
whoever,
totally for it.
you know.
But do
I
you
think it's
hurt the team just to
probably
get rid of a guy?
Yeah, I think it's probably less than 80%. It's just the percentage that's saying it is
The vocal
is
minority.
insanely vocal. So, and get a bad mouth all 80% of our fans. Just
Look, I don't care if I like him. If he would have been 17-10 in that scenario,
You'd have been ecstatic.
you'd be ecstatic.
No,
I could
you'd be
care
fine.
less if he's here promoting the city
and
during
again,
Super Bowl week.
I don't think anybody, even people who are like, look, and we're just talking dollars and cents, trying to talk common sense, trying to talk pragmatism here. We're not car bandwagoners. We're not car for life truthers, or we're not car one of ones. But it's just like, what's best? Like, what just makes sense
This
for the
is
team?
the situation
And-
we're in. How do we deal with it?
You
That's
don't
what
even
we're
have to
talking
be a big car dude to just admit, like, if you was 17-10, you could say, like, I don't want to see the guy's face on camera, but I want to see our team win. Like, just take what it is.
The hate for that dude is so irrational, it's unbelievable. And I say this as someone who wants Carr replaced with a suitable replacement ASAP.
He's just like the annoying ass kid on the schoolyard, like, to those people anyway, to whoever doesn't like him. It's just like, oh crap, here comes that dude again. We got to deal with this dude. He's just unlikable.
Dude, if he's winning, I don't care.
Right.
And he's literally under that
and
scenario.
that's how we think, but a lot of people, like, just can't get past him. And I think there's a lot of hypocrisy out there. I think if that 2-0 start we had, maybe not all the fireworks, but if that had turned into 4-1, 5-2, you'd have seen a lot less hate.
See, I think it.
Absolutely.
Those injuries changed everything.
winning cures
on
everything.
offensive line. And everyone paused for a second with those
Injuries
two.
ruin
Do
everything.
you remember how quickly the whole fan base paused on Carr?
Oh,
and we're
when-
like, oh, okay.
Like, especially after the Cowboys
he gets
game.
it now. Yeah.
Because the Carolina game, it was very much like, okay, it's Carolina. And then the Cowboys game happened, and Dallas was slated to be like neck and neck with the Eagles at that point.
Yeah.
And then, there was a big old pause.
Yeah.
Big
So-
old, like,
Everyone got silent.
even
quick.
a praise, yeah.
So I think you do what's best for the team. Now, I don't know how in depth, I didn't read the article, on how in depth he got on what the restructures would look like if you got away from him now with those. If you're not extending years and there's a way to do it and you want to go a different direction, meaning extending years for the other players to make this happen, then
You're gonna
you can
have
make a
to.
case.
You're gonna have to extend a year.
If they could,
So,
most likely.
so I'm against that. I think Carr is playing at
Well,
a
hold on. I don't think you would mind it for DeMario because you said he's still playing at a Pro Bowl level.
He is.
His contract's, I think, up next year in 2026.
Okay. Well, yeah,
So
no, I'd be fine
give
with
him
that
another
one.
year. You're fine with that. Honey Badger, I'd be fine. His contract as well up after this season. I'd be fine giving him one more year.
yeah, there's a
Eric McCoy, I'm fine giving him one more year.
Eric McCoy's getting
he
restructured
doesn't,
no matter
he doesn't
what.
count the old guys.
Because he's around.
So I
for
guess
sure.
my point is, it's not as
But
catastrophic
Taysom-
as you're thinking.
Taysom, Granderson.
Taysom, I would not want to touch.
If you're going to restructure Granderson, he's going to ask for a raise.
Taysom, somebody. There's been reports.
Yeah.
I can see something happening with him. Whether it's a trade, I can see something happening with him. I mean, him not.
If
being
someone wants
let's
to
not-
trade
let's
for him,
not
you
hold
have
our-
to trade him.
Let's not
You
hold
have
our
to.
breath. You're saying
But you'd
someone.
have
you mean
to manipulate the contract a little bit to kind of.
with Denver?
That's fine. Let Sean
Look,
have
Sean
it.
Payton's talking about
It's
he
just
needs to
fine.
get a joker.
If he gets off the books, that's fine. Sean Payton's juju with him. He's going to be injured in week 4.
He's one of the most fun
know,
Saints players in history, but his contract is insane.
Yeah.
So if there's a way, and he's 35 this year coming.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Look, I'm going to
Now-
say this about our fan base. I saw a thread on Reddit this morning. Someone posted, and literally it was Thomas Morstead. This is the worst cut in Saints history, like the worst decision. And I'm like, and I'm reading the comments,
It's not a
and I'm
good
like,
one.
wow, that's a take. Because like,
Yeah.
let's look at the kicker, punter, specialist position.
Yeah.
It's not even the worst one because Morton Anderson was by far.
It's just people.
but it shows you how many.
It's
how
the-
big of our fan base has not.
It's because he loves New Orleans.
Yeah, no, it's a big.
Morstead loves New Orleans.
I love Morstead.
Me too.
It's a.
But
big,
that's why he gets the fan pass.
I think
mean,
that is. Look, does that
That
give
just
you?
sums up our fan base.
Does that give you wins and losses? Look, I'm fine with our fan base being passionate also about our city. I think that's a lot of things that other teams lack. So I'm never going to knock that in a vacuum. I think a lot of times though, there's
I'm not
just,
knocking it, but it should not be the end all be all.
right. I think it, and I also think there's a lot of people who post on places like Reddit that just, they kind of forget how words work. When you say the worst,
Reddit, Twitter,
what you really meant to say was, it's so bad that we cut him. I wish we would not have ever cut him. That would have been perfectly fine.
Yeah.
None
of us wanted him to
go. The person that posted it was probably taking a shit and posted that in like 20 seconds, and the shit went, no pun intended, went viral.
Oh, here it
or whatever.
is. True or false? Morstead release was the worst ever.
Yeah. So like that person, what they meant to say was, should we ever have released him?
First comment. Is that you, Thomas?
That's a much more valid thing to say. So like the worst ever. That.
Are we limiting this to actual having to release a player?
Release, yes.
But
that's what it was.
I don't
Not
think
letting them go?
It's obviously not the worst.
Yeah.
It's obviously not the
Release.
worst.
He had a huge number that we got out of by letting him go
It's release.
for a punter.
Morton Anderson was also a release, so. And then he went
I'd
on
have to see the
5
list
more.
on actual released.
Now, beyond all that, the last thing I'll say on the CARR thing, but the one way to reframe this. All right, so when we've talked about draft, and we've talked about the idea of drafting a quarterback with your first round pick, and if our first round pick is, if it was top 10 this year, y'all said if our coaches and GM decide to pull the trigger on a QB with a top 10 pick, you're all for it because they've evaluated, they've made the decision that that's our guy.
I will trust them to make the decision.
Right. So transposing that over to the CARR situation, if Kellen Moore comes in and he says, with the Derek Carr situation, given everything we've talked about, how all the numbers work out, if he says that, look, I just feel best about this team moving forward, if we make a clean break now from Carr and move on, I will give him the same benefit of the doubt I would if they selected a quarterback in the first take the dead money, all that stuff, and
absolutely.
They bring
But
in
I would
whoever.
say, let's sit down and show you what that means. Because, again, if you're extending this list of 7, 8 guys,
right?
Okay, let's look at these guys as well.
Yeah.
Okay, how do you feel about Granderson in the new 3-4 defense? Should we get Brandon Staley in here? How do you feel about 34-year-old Honey Badger getting an extra year?
Right.
How do you feel?
So I'm saying, like, given all of those questions that immediately pop up, if Moore made the decision to move on from Carr with all that entails, would you question his decision to move on, saying, maybe,
I will give him the benefit
maybe
of the
shouldn't
doubt.
have done it?
Oh,
Look,
it wouldn't stop me from questioning it, but it's his decision to make.
Right. Yeah. I'll give him the benefit of the doubt because he has not been here long enough for us to say, oh, well, he messed this up, he messed that up.
Right.
He has a clean slate. I will give him the benefit of the doubt and say, you know what? He believes this.
Now,
let's let it roll.
So on one hand, if Moore said, I want our fans to be happy, and a lot of them are saying, get this man out of my face, so
he's not going to do that.
So I cut him. He would never say that.
He's not going to do that.
That's one thing. But if he comes in and was like,
that dude is not making a single decision.
But if he says
he's not making any decision based on what this fan base thinks.
I know. But if he says the best football direction for this team is to start fresh, then we're good.
Then I will say, okay, I respect it. Let's go.
I'll say I hope you're right because if you're 2-15, the chatter's going to start real fast.
And he'll say, it was all part of the plan.
Drafts, I don't think his seat gets remotely warm, no matter what happens.
I'm not talking about his seat. I'm talking about the fans. 2-15 Saints fans are going to be a problem.
I'm telling you right. You're underestimating the fan base's hate for Carr.
I was about to say, I'll go back to Max.
Base will be so thrilled.
Yeah.
This fan base, if you ask most of the vocal minority right now, if you said, hey, would you trade Carr and take on going 0-17 in the 2025 season?
Let me tell you how this works. I know. And then as soon as you got into that season, they'd be like, what is Loomis doing with this freaking team? They will immediately pivot and go bananas.
But they won't go. But they will not go on Moore.
They will not on Moore. Yeah.
Probably not.
They won't.
But they'll pick someone else to blame for everything.
This team thinks
that's what we do.
This team thinks it's Madden.
Some people might want
This team
that
thinks it's
option.
Madden and that you can literally go 0-17 with no repercussions.
Right.
We should put a poll out there because I think it's a legitimate question. Option one.
I just think you're crazy.
But option one is
season ticket race.
But hear me out. Option one is Cooper Rush or somebody else like we've mentioned, and you go.
Rattler's going to win this poll. I can tell you that right now. You don't even need to put it
or whoever. No, but
if you have Rattler as an option,
you go like 4 and 13, or you have cut Carr. You've gone with the guy that Moore wants to bring in, and you go 0-17. You get the top pick. People are going to pick as long as Carr.
They're going to go 0-17
as long as Carr is gone. Yeah.
Because these are also the same people who are convinced that Arch Manning is going to be in the 2026 draft.
Yeah, which is I agree with you. I think there's a better chance I believe in a better chance than you that he comes out, but it's not 100%. You know, it's.
I think it's about a 99.99999 all the way down to the end.
I think
of
it's
this
a
world
more.
that he
I think
does.
it's more of like a 70-80ish. But anyway, I think if it's
But
like
people, I guess my point is, people are just, it's to them, it's a foregone conclusion because he's eligible that he will be in the draft,
yeah, like he's
and that is
any other. Look, if you did not grow up as a Manning, then you would be giving up way too much to stay in college. But
people stay now, man.
no, with the NIL, yeah. But I mean, there's a lot of people that decide to go to the draft because it's like, there's some guy breathing down my neck on the roster, or I gotta, they don't, even with NIL, they still didn't come from shit, and it makes a lot more sense to
That dude ain't gonna have anybody breathing down.
But that's what I'm saying. With Arch has no really all the other reasons that
doesn't
force
matter.
people out of college.
Again, like anyone banking on Arch is just stupid.
It'll be
Arch is probably going to be the first pick in the draft.
We've only picked a quarterback in the first round once in our history.
We've
If he
only
came
had the
out-
first pick in the
yeah.
draft how many times?
Jesus, yeah,
Ever?
we had to have had it back in the.
Archie was second.
Look it up. Look it up. Here's the deal, though. If you're looking for a quarterback in the 2026 draft, and you want the happy story of getting someone who's almost local or someone who has,
like Nussmeier. Yeah.
you're looking at Garrett Nussmeier,
Now, look,
which would make the fan base ecstatic.
well,
I think
I'd be fine. He's family.
that's right.
We're
yeah.
related
Yeah,
because it's Lizzie's cousin's cousin.
there you go.
That's
Lizzie's cousin's cousin?
yeah, something
17
like that.
times removed.
Her cousin married
All right, not
Doug
important. Not important.
Nussmeier's
The
brother.
Saints have selected first overall
Oh, George Rogers. That's
George
right.
Rogers. I was about to say.
once. George Rogers.
George
Second
Rogers.
twice. That's it.
Told you.
Wait, I thought you just said once.
Once ever.
Once ever, and only
Yeah.
second twice.
Oh, only second twice.
And that was Reggie
Took
and
Wes Chandler with the third pick.
Reggie and Archie, right? Yeah.
And where did
Jesus.
and we drafted?
So you're counting on Arch. Like, guys,
you can't count on Arch.
It's like counting on win the lottery.
do you understand how all this works?
No, they don't.
People don't want to understand how it works.
Just get Carr off the team, buddy. That's
if
it.
you start making people understand how it works, then they don't get to have the
Why is
incendiary
Rattler so
takes they have
beloved,
on
though?
Twitter. Come on, that would ruin the fun.
Does anyone know why Rattler's
Yeah.
so beloved? Like, what's the
because
just
he's not Carr.
But that's maybe what perfect timing for him. And
That's
his
way
career.
too loaded
That's
of a
amazing.
question to.
It is because it delves
answer-
into other things that we're not going to
We could do a 3-episode series.
That
on
dude had a
why-
40.
Just the simple question of why is Rattler still loved?
A 40.
3-episode.
Do you know how
Easy
bad a
there.
40
Easy there.
QBR is? You're
I
the
don't
worst
know.
quarterback in the league.
There's no-
That was his QBR.
I think it's the swagger. He could be. But if Baker, if
Corey,
Rattler was
nobody
Baker,
knew. Nobody knew. What was your opinion on Rattler when we drafted him? What was your first thing you said to us in the text
I
message?
said fuck.
Exactly. That was the majority of the fan base's opinion on
Because
Rattler.
that was informed by my Georgia Bulldog eyes watching South
That's
Carolina.
fine. That
And it's-
was the majority of the fan base's opinion on Rattler the day he was drafted.
But then people got around on the strong arm, the mobility idea.
Do we not remember this guy got beat out by Caleb Williams at Oklahoma and then struggled at South Carolina for 2 seasons? I mean,
Well, but Caleb Williams was generational. He was going to beat anybody.
But this dude played he was a starter 4 years in college, correct? Mm-hmm. 3 at South Carolina, 1 at Oklahoma. 1 year he didn't play at all.
was he at 3 at South Carolina or 2? I thought it was 2.
He came back for the 3rd, didn't he?
I think he was only there 2.
Let's see. I'll look it up.
Look, I'm not down on the guy in general.
You were down
just-
on him when we picked him.
No, yeah,
And
because
then you bought into the hype. And you still
Yeah.
kind of linger in there.
well, I don't think he's a starter yet. I mean, could he be? Maybe.
Look at the college one. Oh,
But he's not.
You're right, too.
He has not
Yeah,
done
okay.
enough or shown enough to say that he's a
But
starter.
he was a starter 4 years, 2 at Oklahoma, 2 at South Carolina.
Yeah.
He lost his job, I think, in like week 8 or whatever, right?
I Caleb came in and played like
to be
5
honest,
games.
his
Right.
issues, he has not shown. If we're looking at it from X and O's perspective, he has not shown that he's grown out of his problems that he had in college. He had a lot of the jump pass is a perfect little tiny bubble example because in college he had a bunch of just highlight reel plays, but in terms of consistency over the course of a season, there were really important junctures where he just didn't get it done.
I'm going to tell you this.
And he reverted back to interceptions. The same thing has shown with us when he got the chance to start. Great first half, dude. But
Look, here's the deal.
Did you close it out? No.
In an Oklahoma offense that produced multiple Heisman winning quarterbacks, this dude got benched in his second year as a starter. And you look at his stats, otherwise, like they are pretty. That's an Oklahoma team that consistently puts up stats.
And they did that year when he left. Caleb went.
Caleb was up. There was talk about him being up for the Heisman because he played enough. Just because he went like 6-0 or whatever at first, and then he ended up losing.
Yeah, I mean,
here's the thing. The thing we talk about at quarterback all the time is generally the guys who play a ton in college come in better prepared, right? We've talked about that multiple times. Generally, not always. He played a ton of college football. Mm-hmm. He didn't look like a composed dude to me. He never. I'm not saying he got rattled or anything, but he never in the pocket. It was pretty bad. He had no awareness.
Sacks are a quarterback stat.
Yes, and he got. We talked about that a bunch. Just showing the difference, whether you like Carr or not. If you're just looking at sacks, he was sacked 3 times as many times as Carr, and he played 3 less games.
He played too early to in that type of role.
Well, I'm going to give you credit for this. You actually said it. We had that whole thread going on Twitter in the preseason, and you said the agenda should be let's not fuck him up before.
Yeah, whatever I said, it was
being
like
actually being something.
Yeah, it's fun. Look, if you're committed and you're okay, like if you're a Saints fan and you want to say, look, rationally, hey, you come up to us and say, look, I know this is going to produce less wins and losses than Justin Fields, than Russ Wilson, than Derek Carr. But I want to see it happen anyway. I think it's the best way for him to learn. I'm not going to agree with you, but at least it makes more sense if you at least come out and say,
this is what I want to ask.
That would be a more reasonable take.
We're going to lose with him, but I want to see us. I want him
What did you see in 2024 that Spencer Rattler is great at?
Great?
Give me one thing.
Nothing.
One thing.
Taking sacks.
There's no greatness.
Turnovers. Pretty good at that too.
Yeah, but I mean the non-sarcastic. There's nothing he's great.
Nothing he did showed you like, okay, did you see like? We can talk about now. This isn't a fair comparison. Obviously, he's the 3rd pick in draft, but Max's guy Drake May. He had some bad games. Had a bunch of turnovers, but you also saw the other side of it, where you're like, that's what I'm talking about. Let me point to this is a bad team and look at that game.
When people look,
he doesn't have one of those.
He flashed a lot.
And that's the thing. That's what happened. That's what I'm saying is college struggles have transposed to the NFL because were there times where he threw a dime for a touchdown? Yes. Were there instances of a great pass of him rolling out, throwing a dart, or throwing a pass on a line with zip and speed and velocity? Yes, there were instances of that. But he did not do it consistently, and he did not do it consistently even in game over the course of first half, second half to finish
4 touchdowns in 7 games. Okay, weren't 2 of them on trick plays?
He didn't win
2 of them trick plays.
He didn't win a game.
He was 0-6 as a starter.
Right. So that's the thing. It's so if you're gonna say, I'm not gonna knock people for saying I would choose Rattler over Carr if they admit that definitively results in less wins versus losses.
It doesn't definitively, but it most likely.
90%.
I think
90%.
it's pretty close to definitive because we saw enough. We didn't see 2 games.
I'll never say never because there's always a chance.
Yeah.
He played in 7 games and we lost them all.
Right.
So
Carr went 500?
5-5.
Carr went 10 games, 5-5. He played 7 games. We lost all of them. So
there's a little bit of evidence to go off of.
Yeah. So it's like that. But if you say, look, you can tell me all you want. You can tell me the stats. You can tell me the advanced analytics. Well, I would rather take the chance of the Rattler ceiling and it not happen and lose along the way than take the certainty of the Derek Carr floor. If that's
hold on.
Are
you speaking for yourself, or are you saying this is?
I'm saying if somebody told me that, I would say, you thought it out.
For me,
if
you come to me and say, I want to go Rattler because I'm in the tanking boat and maybe a miracle happens with Rattler.
Yeah,
fine.
that's what I'm saying. Like they think his ceiling's higher than Carr's or anybody else that's available or reasonably gettable, and they're like, I know this comes with a much, much, much higher chance of losing a whole lot more games, but I'd rather take the chance on the ceiling lottery ticket, and if he does hit, if he does stick, you're set up on the rookie contract with a successful guy. That's a take.
Here's the thing, though. His ceiling isn't even that much higher than Carr now because here's the reality. We're already 1 season in. He was a 5th-round pick, so he's on a 4-year contract.
Yeah, he's not on.
So the reality is
he's 25 years old in September.
He's 25 years old. If he doesn't take off as a starter in 2025, you're missing your window because he can ask for a new contract after year 3.
He could use us as a springboard to go somewhere else.
You can ask. I mean, you have to re-sign a quarterback if he shows anything, but he can ask for a new contract after his 3rd season. So you're really not
But he could
getting the benefit of the QB contract with him if he doesn't
But I'm saying-
kick it into gear now.
Yeah, if he hit right away.
If he would have hit last season in 2024 season, then
Right,
yes, we were on a gold mine.
Because if he hits, let's say he hit this year,
He would have to hit this year or it's pointless.
he could still play his own cards at that point. He could say, "Oh,
Corey, he's the second he's eligible. If he starts next year, he's absolutely cashing in and getting a contract. He's not going to postpone
I'm
and
saying
go. I'll stay on my league minimum contract to where I can get paid
But I'm
in
saying
2 years.
it doesn't. If he hits that well, it doesn't have to be for us even. He could.
Corey, they're not letting him walk if he hits in any way. You don't let a quarterback in their mid-20s walk if they show any signs of anything. He's not auditioning for another team is what I'm getting at.
Okay,
Because they
got it.
are going to re-sign him if he showed anything.
Yeah.
But you only have the benefit of this rookie contract basically
But I'm saying
2025 and 2026.
Right, you don't have the benefit of the rookie contract eliminating you.
You don't have it in 2027.
You're still gonna have to pay him.
You're going to have to pay him.
If you re-sign him, you're paying a market starter rate already. That's the issue. So
Exactly.
It's
So like Brock Purdy came in as a rookie.
yeah,
Did well. So what? This year was his third year as a starter,
yeah, had to be.
right, Nick? It
It was his
second year.
Second year.
Yeah,
was only his second year.
yeah.
Okay, so what is
Super Bowl was last year.
right? So they're already talking about him being due for a contract
Yeah.
because he was their last pick in the draft. Same contract structure as Rattler, 4 years.
Yeah.
He's able to get a new contract after the third.
Right.
Or going into the third, it might be. So Jesus, look it up and see. So if that's the case, the quote-unquote upside of Rattler honestly really isn't.
Purdy's also the same age as
Yeah, I'm not. And look again, I'm not
7
saying,
months apart, 8 months apart.
I'm not saying anybody who.
So this was his second year. He just started as a starter.
No, it's his third.
third. That's what I thought. So he's due for no Google contract.
And so he came in when Garoppolo got hurt, right? That's not the year they made the Super Bowl, though. They made the Super Bowl the first year he started the full year, correct?
Yeah. Last year 'cause they
Against
beat
the
Lions.
Chiefs.
Right, because they beat the Lions
Right.
in the championship.
Yeah.
Right.
So, look,
And the year before, he hurt his hand in the playoff game, and he went out in the first quarter against the Eagles, and the Eagles went to the Super Bowl.
yeah. So,
So his contract, I had heard he already asked for a contract because his third, which they have to give him. They have to sign him.
Okay, it's right here. Purdy is eligible for a contract extension starting
Right now.
Monday.
Yeah.
So this was he's already eligible. So this is back in January.
Right.
So with Rattler, back to my original point, we've already gotten through year one, showed
Mm-hmm.
nothing. So you have the 2025 season and the 2026 season that you can possibly benefit on the rookie contract.
But he would-
I think we're all in agreement that the 2025 Saints are not going to compete for a Super Bowl.
and if he does well enough to be definitively your starter next year, he's going to hold out until he gets a contract the following year.
So right, so you're gonna
So-
well, it would have to be he would have to play under it in 26, but then
Yeah.
in 27. So you're looking at that point. If he shows anything, you're paying him $40 to $50 million a year
Yeah.
advantage.
Which I
over.
guess,
So Rattler having not hit in year one kind of reduces the margin for error you have. So he basically has to hit in 2025,
Yeah.
and that way you have 2025, 2026.
You
you
could
have-
maybe
You're
salvage-
talking about for the Saints to get impact out of him becoming a good player because once you're paying him,
Correct.
it's not
That-
impact.
all of his upside is predicated on his cheap contract right now.
Right.
Is what I'm saying.
Yeah, to get a
and
year-
the benefit of the contract goes away after 2026.
You would want at least a year on the cheap.
Correct. So you have a 2-year window. One of these, which we can go ahead and say is most likely going to be a wash, 2025.
Yeah.
So you're realistically stacked up to where if you don't reap the benefits of it in 2026, you're not going to. So you might as well just go ahead and get another quarterback anyway.
Correct. Or if he hits in 2025, then.
I mean, I'm sorry. Let me take that back. If he hits, obviously you're going to sign him, and you just hope you can make it happen around.
But even if you're paying, you get two years technically on the cheap, but the third 2026 on the cheap will be
the
tied
last year
to
on the
the
cheap.
inability to do anything with him beyond that. If
Correct.
he tanks, whatever.
After 26, you have to sign him.
Yeah.
You have to make the call.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. Again, if you're just saying I just want to give him another chance, fine, whatever, that's cool. If you're saying you saw something, I don't know what you watched. He literally played the worst
saw-
quarterback in the NFL.
You saw flashes.
No.
They-
no, you didn't.
You
just
can
said
fit
there
him
were
on five.
flashes.
I didn't say there were any flashes. You did.
I could have sworn you said there were flashes.
No,
I
I
think
said there
you're
were
talking
flashes for Drake May when he brought up me liking Drake May. I said there were plenty of flashes.
Rattler had, by flashes, I mean, like, he had some good
You're talking
plays.
about
Corey,
5
there was not a
plays.
single flash.
You're picking out his 5 best plays, maybe,
Right.
if you're calling that a flash. But
That's not a flash.
You never saw a consistent, like, okay.
I've said that. You did not
Yeah.
see it. I said
Right.
that, go, you know.
And just for the record, I
Yeah.
said Drake May showed
Look,
flashes.
I said he had 4 touchdowns. I believe 2 of them were on, like, the double reverse throwback pass. One of them
Yeah.
to Foster and one to Kamara, I think. You threw 2 regular touchdowns
Yeah,
in 7
I'm-
games?
like,
I
anyway.
don't know what people are seeing. That's all I'm
there
saying.
were no flashes.
They're seeing what they want to see, is what it is. I mean,
Right, and their hatred of Carr dictates what they see.
Yeah, and yeah.
If it's anybody or Carr, okay, then I get it.
It's where we are. People are saying, like, we're in this hell with Carr. I think we're just in this hell, period. I just want to see us. That's why, like, if Moore came out and was like, I just think it's best football sense to refresh, move on with my own guy, it would be a breath of fresh air, no matter, even though the cap situation would be ugly. I'd be like, thank God, at least there isn't this whole.
That's also assuming he's cool with Rattler being his guy,
No. I'm not saying he moves on from and chooses Rattler. I'm saying if Moore comes in and is like,
well, you kind of have to if you move on from Carr. I mean,
Or you're bringing in one of your guys.
or you're bringing in some dude
Well,
on the
let me
cheap.
throw this guy out. Tanner McKee. Third
Yeah,
string
I
with the
mean-
Eagles. Hold on, third string with the
Yeah.
Eagles. It was either his first or second year. I can't
Yeah,
remember.
at
if he was
least he's
rookie
like
or
a
not.
younger dude, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Stanford, 5-star recruit.
Yeah, I'm
6'5",
like-
6'6". Showed flashes
Flashes,
in the
right.
games that he had to play this year. And Kellen Moore obviously got to coach him for an entire season.
Yeah.
So Kellen Moore comes in and says, I'm sending a 5th-round pick to the Eagles. Actually, we make trades with the Eagles. It's probably a 2nd or 1st
isn't
round pick.
Pickett wasn't Pickett on a 1-year deal? So now he's the backup,
Pickett was on his rookie contract.
which is
Yeah.
4 years with a 5th-year option. You're not picking up the option.
you
so.
don't get the option, right? If he
Yeah, you do.
you still
the
get
option
it? It
travels with him. Yeah,
I didn't know that.
but I mean, I can't see any scenario
He's-
where they would pick up.
No,
the 5th-year
Yeah,
Yeah,
he's
option.
at least
20
already
million.
shown some tape that is rare.
What year was it for Pickett? 3.
He's the same year as Malik Willis. This was 3, I think.
Yeah.
Look, here's the deal. If Kellen Moore comes in and goes, we're trading for Pickett, we're trading for McKee, or we're signing Cooper Rush, I'm going to trust him at that point.
If
Because
you
that
tell
tells
me
me
you're
he
trading for
goes,
Pickett, I am
need
not trusting you.
that tells me he knows I need someone who at least gives me a floor.
Yeah. I mean, I think the word, just like, words are important. Like the Reddit post said, worst cut ever. Trust? Is trust the right word? I don't know. But benefit of the doubt? Sure. Can I trust? We can't truly trust.
If he trades for
Kellen
Kenny
Moore
Pickett and no one's
he hasn't-
questioning it, something's wrong with
he hasn't
all of
coached. He hasn't coached the game yet. We can't technically trust him. He hasn't been a head coach for a single game yet. But if do we give him the benefit of the doubt because he's got a vision and he's a smart dude? Sure.
Yeah. If his vision is to flip a 7th-round pick for Kenny Pickett, I'm not going to yell about it.
Yeah.
But again, I need somebody. I can't have Rattler as the unquestioned starter.
I would. Whoever is going to be the starter, I would just need. If it's not Carr, I mean, we've already seen enough out of Carr to say he's at least a starter. Not an elite one. Maybe not
He's
even
in
top
the
half.
teens, dude.
He's for sure a starter.
if you come out and say anybody besides him is the starter, I do want to see the evidence. Like, I'm not just going to take your word for it because you're Kellen Moore and you're a genius. Like, I need to see enough in training camp, even on like a fan perspective, to be convinced that
I don't think anybody he brings in this year is long term.
just because you're like
I'm thinking anyone he brings in this year is like let's get through year one.
But if you got McKee and it's like, and there's no way McKee would start over, if Carr's in the house. So it's like
no. I think him bringing somebody in is predicated on Carr not being on the team.
So if you get rid of Carr and then you take a McKee, like if he hasn't shown it even in a preseason game or in training camp, like where fans are watching, it's going to be really hard to trust. Like Moore being up there, but like, trust me, he's a baller in practice. It's like, I'm not going to trust you yet, but
Corey, I'm going to push back. The fan base will buy into it because Carr's not on the team. And they'll give him. These people are giving Rattler
For a
every
little
chance
bit.
in the
yeah,
world.
no, I'm with Nick. Like there will be a little honeymoon of
Yes,
Carr
once
being
he's gone, if it's real bad.
But if you've got some dudes thinking it up in preseason, and then Moore's on the mic being like, "No, like today wasn't indicative of what we've seen in practice."
I'm not worried about the preseason.
He's
Let's
really
see
been
the
on the
regular
ball.
season.
Like that's what I'm saying. Like I'm not just going to trust Moore.
you cut him, you're 1-5. They're going to forget that Carr was even on this team and be like, "What the hell is this organization?"
You cut
doing
Carr and
here?"
you made it worse.
Right. How could you think this?
I think the honeymoon period will be longer than you think.
It's like
The
I
dude's
do
name
agree
is
that they will
Tanner.
flip
You
out.
thought he's better than Carr? Are you an idiot?
I do agree with you
but-
that if we end up going like
Again,
1-16 or
You can
God
take-
forbid 0-17, yes, the fan base will turn and be like, "What are you doing?"
It's most or certain the vocal minority fans, but like you can take the next step for them, but you can't bake ration into it. Like the next step is being giving the guy credit because Moore's gone. That's fine, but then while it would seem irrational to then get mad at the same dude who cut Carr for starting someone else. It's like, that's irrational. I thought you did in one Carr. Now you're pissed that the guy that's not Carr is in there. It's like, yeah, we're still pissed. Like, that's irrational. Or is there...
What we're dealing with now is irrational.
It's an irrational thought, right? So, like, you have to expect that irrational thought.
Exactly.
So
it's all irrational.
That's probably... If it doesn't seem to make sense, then that's probably what would happen.
I don't think anybody would just come in and stink it up, like any of those guys. You know what I mean? Because it's like they'll probably come in and look, the way the league is set up, which makes Rattler's performance even more mind blowing, is that the league is set up for guys to come in and put up more touchdowns and interceptions. And the fact that he threw 4 touchdowns and 5 interceptions is kind of mind blowing.
But you still have to be good to do that. Like,
I don't know,
that's
dude.
not.
There's some bad players that have put up positive touchdown interception ratio.
I don't know.
I don't.
Without
think
running
that's
the fact,
very
you
hard
got to be
anymore.
good.
I
Like,
don't think that's hard anymore. I really don't.
It's not. It's
Who
not
are the worst
hard,
QBs
dude.
in the league?
I mean,
Let's check
it'd
it
be
out.
hard for us.
Yeah, we're not getting drafted either. Let's look at it. Who are the worst quarterbacks in the league?
This year, probably like the Raiders starters are probably up there.
Okay.
What are Aiden?
Who
Yeah,
else?
Aiden O'Connell.
Need more than one.
Trevor Lawrence had a lot of interceptions, right?
Yeah, but Trevor Lawrence is a starter. I mean,
Deshaun
that's not even a
Watson was
question.
ass when he played.
Who?
Deshaun Watson.
Oh yeah, he was bad.
He was bad. I bet you he still had a positive. Let's go ESPN. Let's see here.
Didn't Pat Mahomes have a negative for a minute?
It was after like week 2.
I mean, we don't need to get into that. I don't think. Well, let's see. Okay, so we're going down to
Whoever started for the Titans.
I'm just saying it is hard to have a negative or have a negative.
I'm gonna tell you they are
touchdown
because I'm with Max. I think this is not a hard thing to
it's
do.
not hard, bro.
I'm going down.
So
the
then
list.
that's like obviously not a.
Wait, there's one. Gardner.
We got one. Gardner Minshew.
Oh, Matt
So you
Ryan
nailed
must
it.
have had a pretty bad one.
Matt Ryan
right?
didn't play this year, bro.
Anthony Richardson.
Oh, no matter. Oh gosh, Matt Ryan 2.0. Kirk Cousins.
He was terrible. So look, Richardson got benched. Minshew got benched.
Kirko, huh?
Rattler.
No, Cousin had more
When he played?
touchdowns.
Damn.
The only 3 are Rattler, Minshew,
Richardson.
and Richardson. That played more
What
than
did
7
Deshaun
games.
have? 5 and 5. Is that what it says?
5 and 3.
Damn. Okay.
So that's with players who played 7 or more games. There's only 3 who couldn't manage a positive TD to intercept.
Give me that book.
So my point is, under
Max-
no, this is my point. If Kellen Moore says, "I'm bringing in a Kenny Pickett, a Tanner McKee, or a Cooper Rush," or I don't even know who the backup is on the
give me-
Chargers,
give me
maybe
McKee.
that guy, I forget his name. If he says, "I'm bringing one of these guys in," that tells me he has confidence that he can get at least a positive touchdown to interception ratio out of those guys.
People love it on Moore now.
We need
Just-
to take that a step
God,
further. We're
if you
also
think the
talking
Carr-
about 4 touchdowns.
If you think the hate is bad for Carr because Carr's being chosen over Rattler, if it's, hey, I'm Kellen Moore and I've decided to go with Tanner McKee, Cooper Rush, or Kenny Pickett over Rattler. I'm not saying it wouldn't be the right football decision, but that's gonna burst any kind of Carr credit bubble real quick.
Look, if he'd have played a full 17 game season,
I mean, like, because let's
No, I don't disagree with you.
you know.
he was on pace for if he'd have played. You extrapolate his stats over 17 games, it was going to be 10 touchdowns and 12 interceptions. That is horrible quarterback play, and he was going to get sacked 65, 70
I don't disagree
times.
with you. I don't disagree with you. I just think it's such a. This is why this situation is a hell, is what I'm saying. Because like, even the guy who makes the X's and O's sense to be the starter is still incredibly mid. You know, so like his ceiling's tapped. Okay, like I don't see Carr performing a hell of a lot better than what he already has. I just don't. And even if
Carr's ceiling is Jared Goff.
even if he is capped, then
Hold on. No. Carr's ceiling is Jared Goff. If you switch those two quarterbacks, the Lions team wins the
all
same
we have
amount
to
of
do
games.
is sign an Amon-Ra St. Brown and a Gibbs and Montgomery.
No. I mean, look, we all know Carr's in the middle of the pack
Yeah,
at best. But the reality is Jared Goff ain't far from him. And
Yeah,
if you
no,
put Carr
they're
on
not
that
that
Lions
far
team,
off.
that Lions team
Yeah.
is still making it to the playoffs and still getting bounced
and I
in
don't
the
think
first
we can
round.
afford to pay Carr for enough years that it would take to surround him with that type of talent.
I
Well,
agree
the
with that
window's closed
solely,
on
but
that.
that's
Yeah.
not what we're talking
We're not
about.
talking
I agree with that 100%.
So that's why this is a hell, because we've seen the best we can get out of him, either this year or even if it's some crazy scenario,
I don't think that's true either.
It was 2 more
I don't
years.
because we
think that's
haven't
true
had a
either.
healthy team.
Yeah,
So I
we
don't
haven't
think
had
you
a
can
healthy
say
team.
that either. We've been about as unlucky with injuries as any team in the league the last 2 years. So I don't think we can say we've gotten the best out of them. But I also agree with you. I don't know that we have the time to wait 3 or 4 years with a 33 going on 34-year-old.
But no one's disputing that.
But-
Like,
Right.
we all know Carr is offered his team in 2026.
Even if we did take the time, the fact that he's going to go on record in the media and say, I'm not taking a pay cut, like,
he shouldn't. Why
I'm
should
not-
he take a pay cut?
the fact that he said it to Cat Terrell, who he knew for damn sure was going to run with that shit.
I have no problem with that.
You don't think Drew Brees ever told people in private, like, yeah, I'm not going to take a pay cut, but I'm not going to ever.
If the Saints ever were to
tell
go to
that to a
Drew Brees
reporter.
and ask him to take a pay cut, they
Derek
should be
Carr
fired.
They
one of
did.
people-
They asked him to take a pass. They literally did that.
Yeah.
Which is insane.
and he didn't
It's
go
insane.
right. But I think
But they were
Derek
mad
Carr
at him.
wanted people to know.
Again,
I'm
why do we
not
have a
taking a
problem
pay
Do you
with
not
this?
remember people getting up in arms about Drew Brees' contract
No,
over the last
I
6
do.
years?
I
They're all
do,
like,
but-
"Oh man, well Brees is being selfish. If
But
he was
it's-
just if he would take a hometown discount like Tom Brady does, this
I know.
team would win a
No,
Super Bowl."
I know.
Our fan base is stupid.
But that's why. But Brees was still a hell of a lot more.
I
Like,
have-
obviously won a Super Bowl helped
Also-
with that, but
Again, we're back to the what he's getting paid. He's not overpaid.
No, he's not.
So why should he come? What?
He should not take a pay cut.
Will you take a pay cut so we can surround you with more Cedric Wilsons and fucking Marquez Valdez-Scantlings and give
no.
you all these weapons?
I'm not saying.
What are
he
we
should.
talking about?
He should
I'm
not.
just saying-
he should not take a pay
This
cut.
goes back to this is why again this is a quarterback hell that our team is in, because even though the guy that makes the most sense to play quarterback for us, like, is
No, all
Carr,
this is showing how
he's a
illogical the
public
fans are.
relations
That's all it shows.
fucking
We're not even in quarterback hell. Corey.
nightmare as a quarterback.
Where we messed up is the brain trust, the front office looked at the roster after the 2022 season and said, this team, and after watching Andy Dalton and Jameis Winston, I kind of see why they did this, but they looked at it and said, this team is a solid quarterback away from making a run to the playoffs. That's why they went and got Carr. They signed Carr to a solid quarterback contract.
Right.
And guess what? We got what we paid for.
Yeah.
He has performed to the level of his contract.
You did not give him a good
but
team.
look, and to your point earlier, Nick,
We're
you're-
not in quarterback hell, though. You know what quarterback hell is? What the fucking...
Deshaun Watson.
Yeah,
That's quarterback
Yeah,
hell.
that's worse. That's worse. But to your point, it's about people expecting Drew Brees to walk through that door. We are spoiled. We are fucking spoiled.
We're never going to see
as
that
a fan
again.
base.
Yeah.
So the pairing, playing ability versus personality is such a rare thing to happen. I mean, it seems like it's easy because you see the faces of the league. You see Josh Allen being beloved. You see Pat Mahomes being beloved, and we
Are they
know
winning? Just out
we
of
know it
curiosity.
from Brees. They're winning a lot, of course. So like, they
That's all
make
that
it
matters,
they
though.
make it look easy, right? And so Carr's one of these dudes who's just
Yeah, but you just said 2 Hall of Fame quarterbacks. Mahomes is in the Hall of Fame now.
There's-
Josh Allen is steamrolling.
that both make
Jameis,
over 55 million a
non-Hall
year.
of Fame guys that are beloved. Jameis is beloved. All right, there are enough idiots out there that would think
That is an
make Jameis-
indictment on our fan bases. To his point, that
Even-
is terrible.
I think he's
Even
hilarious
even
too.
some
He
Browns
is.
I
fans
love
were like,
Jameis.
"Play
I have
Jameis."
the witness shirt from
So-
Florida State. I love him. He's a terrible quarterback.
Would people be happier with Carr if we were winning and a playoff
Absolutely.
team?
Winning fixes
Sure.
everything.
Would he still be a
No one would be bitching about Carr, anything he's ever said in an interview, him throwing his hospital ball. None of that would be a topic if this team goes 12-5.
Yeah, 12-5.
The second is people would forget that the second.
But it's funny
win a
what's,
division,
like, 2
win a division
wins,
at 10-7,
9-8, 10-7.
Everyone shuts up immediately.
If we win the tiebreaker a year ago, they'd probably shut up.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Look, we're fans. You win, we don't care what you do. When
Yeah.
you don't win, we care about everything you do.
Yeah.
Rationally or
it's-
irrationally.
and there's a difference too. Like there's a level of people like bitching to say I want him off my team, and then there's other people who say I don't like the dude, but don't get him off my team. Like there would always be that. If we made the playoffs, if we won the division, there'd be a sect of fans that say,
Look, I get the Browns fan base, anyone who's like, get this scumbag off my team.
with Deshaun, yeah,
Because
Yeah.
the contract is the worst contract in NFL history. The man off the field has a track record that, like, it's unbelievable. That is a fan base that absolutely should be like, just get this dude off my team at any cost.
Yeah.
Our fan base should not be looking at CARR and going, get this dude off my team at any cost. They should not. That is the most illogical thing in the world.
It doesn't make football.
It doesn't
sense.
make any football sense.
It doesn't. I mean, again, we're going to say it again. He's 40 touchdowns, 13 interceptions with right at 100 QB rating or 99 is. This guy has not played awful.
And we're beating a dead horse on that point. The only world in which it makes any sense is the world in which like he's your quarterback if he passes the dipshit test, right? Because I think his public persona, not great. And if that's all you're judging your quarterback on, fine. But at least admit that that's your test. In football, X's and O's, wins and losses is not your test.
Right.
Because, yeah,
you have to separate the two.
He puts his foot in his mouth all the time, and it sucks. But, like, who gives you the best chance to win games with what we have? Yeah, it's him. And, that's just the facts of it.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I don't think we're going to go past the 2-hour mark to talk about the combine. Maybe we'll save that for next episode.
We can just review it next time.
Let's see the combine. And
let's watch it and
we'll see what happens. I think there's a few guys that could, seriously up their stock or hurt their stock. People are talking about Jackson Dart. He's saying he's training to run a 4.5. Again, talking about PR.
I care less about
it's
him
all
running
PR.
4.5. Yeah. But I am going to say this about the combine. What I am going to be watching, I'm going to be watching the running backs. I want to see the guys who are running in the 4.3s.
Yeah.
Those are the guys I want to see. There's a kid from Virginia Tech, Bashul Tootin. I don't know how you say his last name. Watched him a few times. Fast as fuck. Explosive as hell.
I don't care what any of the other running backs run. I want Genty. All right?
Jesus.
F the other running backs. They can run. They can run 4.
We pick
all the other running backs can run a 4.1. And I'm going Genty at 9. Fine.
You're an idiot.
It would be a Loomis move, right? Re-sign Kamara and double down on his
20 draftable running backs, 19 of them run a sub 4.3, and Genty's there. Take Genty. Let's go.
If he's there in a second, absolutely.
He says he's going to run sub 4.4. We'll see.
Look, the guys I'm looking at, though, give me Henderson out of Ohio State. I know he's explosive as shit.
In all seriousness, I do like,
Give me Tutton from Virginia Tech. I know he's explosive
Let's
as
save
shit.
it for after the combine.
Those are the guys I'm looking at, the running backs, explosive juice.
Don't get Max started on the draft.
I want a guy
It's going to be 45 minutes more.
Yeah, well.
I want a dog. Not a bulldog, but like a guy that can...
Cam Scatterboo.
I do Scatterboo.
I would love Scatterboo.
I fuck with Scatterboo.
All right, let's go ahead and wrap it up. We've talked long enough about Derek Carr and our fan base.
Thanks again for listening, Dan. Glad you're still hanging on there. We know you're at least
Dan's
there.
like 7 whiskeys in.
Even Dan's asleep right now.
When we check the analytics and there's like the retention rate, there's like what? There's probably Steve. I'm sure is still there. What's up, Steve? I don't know who else. I'm probably leaving people out. Sorry for the people I left out, but probably somebody in our Discord. It's like, what the fuck?
Yeah,
Zach's on there.
Anyway, we'll go ahead and wrap this one up. Thank you for listening to this extremely long and robust episode of the 28 to 3 podcast. Who dat?